at the time, in COVID, everyone was playing video games online. I had a bunch of mates who were streaming on Twitch, playing video games, and I'd be playing with them while they're streaming on Twitch. And I thought, why wouldn't I stream on Twitch while I work on these projects? And I looked up and I saw some sound producers like writing tunes or mixing on there, but I didn't see any like audio post or sound designers on there. So I took the claim as the very first sound designer to be on Twitch and plastered that everywhere for a while. But I became a Twitch partner in like 2 weeks. And some of my gaming mates said that it takes like 6 months to get a Twitch partnership, but I hit all the milestones really quick, and which was exciting. I think a lot of that was because I brought my audience over from, say, Instagram and things like that. And at that point, I didn't really have a YouTube channel or anything. So I started Twitch streaming. So I'd literally, for 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon or whatever, I'd be working on a project and just live stream as I work through, bringing the AAF file and dialogue editing, adding sound design. There are some cool stories like
Pro Audio Secrets, a show that helps you to find your own voice in sound. In this episode of Pro Audio Secrets, we go to Melbourne, Australia. I'm talking with Benny Knopp, owner of Noisy Post. He's a sound supervisor and supervising sound editor who's running his own company, and also a school community where he actually shows how he works and you can shadow him while he's doing his work. And that is how I found him actually when I was looking into school and wanted to know who's doing audio post-production there. And actually he is the only one who's doing that right now. So therefore I'm really happy that we could have this conversation about his journey into audio, why he's doing the educational part, and what are the current challenges for him in the industry and how he tackles them. So if you also want to either get into the industry or elevate within the audio industry, this episode is for you. Enjoy. One of my oldest and best friends is also called Benny, and you could actually be brothers.
Oh, like really?
You look really a lot like my friend Benny.
Yeah, well, Benny, I've had that for a long time now. So, obviously my name's Ben, or Benjamin is my full name, but I used to write dance tunes and write production music and be in a band, and I thought that Benny was a bit cooler. So, Benny with an I thought had a bit of an edge. I don't love my last name, Knopp, so it's silent K, it's German. I'm very much Australian, but we come from German descent. I think it's German. But I didn't love Ben Knopp. I thought Benny gives me some sort of edge, and then I went with that. And so now I work on so many sets where there's lots of other Bens, so at least people can introduce me as Benny, and it's a little bit different. So yeah. that's
so
me.
I'm really happy that we can have this conversation today, because there are two things I really love about you and your craft. Is one thing, the Australian films lately, I really enjoy them, and I think they have great sound and also great Foley. Just one example, the movie Women in Black, or something like that. It was showing on Netflix. Really liked that.
Okay.
And the other thing is that I found you through your school community, as I'm also really enthusiastic in teaching and helping people out to get into the industry. So I was thinking about building my own school community, or maybe circle or whatever, which I'm actually doing also now. And then I saw that you are the only audio post-production community on Skool. And then after I saw this, I just straight reached out to you in order to get to know you. And here we are having this conversation now. So as far as I understand, you run a post-production facility called Noisy Post, and you also have a YouTube channel and this Skool community. You work mainly on movies and have many credits for feature films and also a lot of short films. Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit more about Noisy Post and how this company is kind of situated? I know it's in Melbourne, right?
But Melbourne, Australia. Yeah.
What's the size of it? And do you have employees, or like, tell me a little bit about it, please.
Recently, I have had a couple of interns work for me at Noisy Post, but I've never actually had any full-time employees or part-time employees, but I do contract out. So I'm a bit of a one-stop shop, kind of do a bit of everything. Besides Foley is like the main thing that I contract out. It's an art form of its own, and I respect you for your craft and have seen many of your videos on Instagram and think you do fantastic work. But
Thanks.
it's the one thing that I don't have the space for it. I would love to dive into it more. It looks like a fun craft, and but it's the one area that I just don't have the time for. Like I've become quite a I think I've become quite good at dialogue editing, and a lot of sound design and stuff. But Foley is the one thing that takes a lot of work, and it's just something that I can't. My time frames tend to be quite short. Budgets are pretty low, so it's easier for me just to pay someone else to do the Foley. The other thing is with feature films, they become so long, like a lot of work for one person. So if I take on all of the aspects of audio post-production, it just becomes too much. So it's already too much as it is, because I tend to do music mixing or score mixing as well as re-recording mixing. So Foley is the one thing that I ship out to other people. But I've worked on the biggest film I've worked on is about $500,000 film called Godless, The Eastfield Exorcism. That was kind of the last. I've done a couple of features since then, a couple of docos and things, but it's kind of the last one that really I was mostly passionate about. Had a decent budget. I think I had a team of about 5 or 6 people in the post-production process. A lot of that was Foley. Had someone cut ambiences and things like that as well. But I did all the rest, dialogue editing, ADR and things like that. But for me, I guess
You even won an award for that, right? For best
I was
sound.
nominated. I didn't quite win, so I was nominated for best sound in film, and it was the actors, which the actors is like our Oscars. It's pretty much the biggest awards in Australia, and we were nominated for multiple. In fact, the DOP was nominated and the composer, but we lost to a film that did really well that year, and there was no way we were going to beat it. It did like grossed 100 million in box office and was a $4 million film, so it well deserved. So we lost to that one, but it was great to be nominated. It's great to schmooze and go on the red carpet and have a good time. And also, as someone who I have a small shop, it's just mostly me. Obviously, for that film, I had a team, but it's just nice to be recognized mostly by your peers, because a lot of that is peer reviewed. So only sound people can vote you into the top 5 or whatever, and then after that it's kind of a popularity contest. So it's nice to know that sound people have seen the film and thought that I did a fantastic job. So that was it was a really amazing moment to be a part of that, for not just for myself but for the whole team as well. And a credit always helps in the future when you're charging for jobs and things, to be able to put that to your name. It works great. But the school, and even just educating in general, it was basically birthed out of COVID for me, because I had a bunch of projects. It was nothing major, like a web series pilot and a few things that I think it was a short film as well, but projects that the producers didn't mind me sharing. So at the time, in COVID, everyone was playing video games online. I had a bunch of mates who were streaming on Twitch playing video games, and I'd be playing with them while they're streaming on Twitch. And I thought, why wouldn't I stream on Twitch while I work on these projects? And I looked up and I saw some sound producers like writing tunes or mixing on there, but I didn't see any like audio post or sound designers on there. So I took the claim as the very first sound designer to be on Twitch and plastered that everywhere for a while. But I became a Twitch partner in like 2 weeks, and some of my gaming mates said that it takes like 6 months to get a Twitch partnership, but I hit all the milestones really quick, and which was exciting. I think a lot of that was because I brought my audience over from, say, Instagram and things like that. And at that point, I didn't really have a YouTube channel or anything, so I started Twitch streaming. So I'd literally, for 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon or whatever, I'd be working on a project and just live stream as I work through, bringing the AAF file and dialogue editing, adding sound design. There were some cool stories, like interactive stuff. And actually, one of the guys that used to chime in early became close friends, and he worked on Godless. He's worked on other projects with me. But there's one cool story where I'm live on Twitch, and in the film or whatever it was, someone handed a guitar, an acoustic guitar, to someone else. And I was like, I don't have that sound in my library. Can someone record it? I don't have a guitar here. So this guy got his guitar, got his mic out, recorded a whole bunch of like Foley hand passing sounds, sent it to me on my Discord, and I put it in there, and it just sounded perfect. And all that happened live, and everyone's like, oh, that was sick, you know, like, and that interaction, I got, and even now I'm getting a bit tingles because it was just so awesome that we're all at home, we're all lonely as heck, you know, and for us in Melbourne, we got some of the worst lockdowns in the whole world. Like Melbourne was one of the worst places to get lockdowns. And I'm sitting in, at this point, I'm in my nice studio that's been built at the backyard at my house. But back then I was literally in our bedroom. My wife and I have a quite large bedroom, and the only place in the house that I could have my setup was there. So I was literally on a little desk with stereo speakers, and I had my big softbox and camera, and even people would walk past, like friends of ours would walk past our house and thought that I started OnlyFans because I had all this camera gear set up in our bedroom and stuff. So, but yeah, I started streaming on Twitch, and then I'd put the videos on YouTube and started just making videos specifically for YouTube as well. And pretty early on, I also built good partnerships. So there's not a lot of people, or I wasn't particularly then doing a lot of audio post-production on YouTube. There's definitely some guys out there and some that are still going well today and are amazing educators. But I just, kept producing content there, and eventually, you know, I was getting free equipment and things to try out, and I still do have some great partners, which is awesome. And I've built some products. So I've got a bunch of templates. I might as well plug things as well. If you go to noisypost.com.au, I do have a bunch of templates, whether it's, stereo to 5.1 templates. I've got, I also work in DaVinci Resolve as well. So I've got Resolve templates and things up there. I've got a thing that I actually built, which I beat another person who he's online as well. He does a lot of Instagram stuff, but I beat him to market on a product as well called Practice Productions. And basically I've got all these old or films that I did previously, so short films that I've got the AEF file and the movie file that they sent me, and I'm selling that as a practice production. So you can practice doing dialogue editing, sound design, you know, mix everything, and then have something to show as a show reel. Because I know for a lot of people, the one thing that is hard is finding that first project. So this gives them something, you know, a high quality short film that they can actually do the whole process. And then they don't even have to do the whole process. If they just want to use it to do sound design or Foley, they can do that, or they can learn to dialogue edit. And then they can use that to get their first job. So I released that a good couple of years ago now, in partnership with all the directors and stuff. So I had some of those products, and I just realized with YouTube, I haven't been like full on with my YouTube channel. I probably, you know, I'll take months off without making content based on how busy I am, or if I've got partners who need me to make videos. But one thing I've noticed is I'm pretty niche, or maybe it's because I haven't worked hard enough on producing video content or YouTube content, that I wasn't making great revenue from it. I obviously was getting a lot of good products from partners and things that was helpful, but I thought I need to start, I guess, making some income from this. So all of last year, so 2024, I basically just recorded nonstop while I worked on a bunch of projects. And at the moment, there's about 80 hours of content on my school platform. So you can watch me work on feature films and other things from start to finish, short films. You can watch the whole process from me importing the project to me sending the deliverables. There's, you know, ones where I work with a composer and we mix it together, and, you know, mix some of his scores together. And there's more content. I've got probably even double that in hours of stuff that I've shot, but I've not finished editing all that as well. So there's, documentaries coming up. There's TVCs, television commercials. So there's a whole bunch of projects and different styles of projects. Some of it's DaVinci Resolve, some of it's Pro Tools. And then on top of that, I do like monthly Q&As. And then we also do a hangout. So the biggest part of it, I guess, for me, or I want the biggest part of it, is the community side of things. Because, you know, I know you wanted to talk to me about how to work online. And for a lot of us, like, as I said, it's mostly me. I do have contractors that I use, but it's mostly me just sitting in this room. You know, I have directors come in and they'll watch a few times. They might, towards the end, they'll watch the film. You know, I'll make changes. They come back and watch it again. We might go see it in a cinema to test in a cinema. But other than that, it's all emails. Like sometimes I never meet the director face to face. They just send me an email. We discuss things over email. We don't even do a face to face on Zoom, and I'll just finish the film, send it off. And that's probably my fault. I probably need to be better at engaging with people, particularly ones that aren't in Melbourne, because I do a lot of work with people all over the place. But it is a lonely business, and I've been taking up a lot more other work sort of a bit outside of Noisy Post or, what I'm doing here, just to have more human interaction.
Mm.
So even things like this is great because it's, for me, it fits that need or fills that need of just being with other people. And so that's a big part of why I like the idea of this. I call it the Noisy Post Shadowing Network. So if you want to check it out, shadowing.network is the website or the splash page. But yeah, I think for a lot of us, we're lone wolves. We just do our thing, and I want people to be able to express, if they're struggling or ask questions about how to get started in their career, or, just there's guys that are already on there, guys and girls that are from all different backgrounds too, which I was surprised about. I thought it'd be more just audio post people, but there's people who are from the music industry. There's people who are more video guys that just want to learn more and just be a part of the community, which is great too. So I have to put a bit more time into it. I feel like I worked really hard to launch this thing, and then I've kind of just gone a bit in cruise control, which I need to really fix, but I've been really busy work-wise lately, so it just is what it is. Yeah, so
Yeah, I
good.
love what you just told me or told us, because this is exactly the same thing that I also want to do, and I see the potential in this concept that sharing projects that are already finished, so people can have a blueprint and have also the chance to work on a project from start to finish, or just focus on one part, let's say dialogue editing or the sound effects, the backgrounds, whatever, even the music, and then you can go back to that finished Pro Tools session or whatever it is, and look how it was put together and mixed, and what's the the details of all of it. So that's a great way to learn. And yeah, I really appreciate that we have this call now, and I can learn from you, basically, because I see the people that I'm on with one-on-one calls right now, just to give them a little career advice and then ask them about what they would look for in a community. So I'm
Yep.
making my market research, basically.
Yeah, that's great.
Uh, they all tend to say, yeah, it's a great idea, and we really want to be part of that and learn in a way like that. So actually, at the moment, I'm a bit puzzled about the whole pricing model, because I have a certain price in mind once this thing is rolled out. So I see it more like a high ticket offer, because to me, the value of it is basically you get industry experience that you actually need for getting into the industry, because no one wants to hire a junior that cannot work from day one.
Yeah,
And even though this is not the purpose of a junior position, but that's how the industry is at the moment. And
yeah,
therefore, I want to bridge that gap for people so that they can be, let's say, a year in the community and then do a couple of projects, get feedback, and get others also to network with the same passion and interest and goal. And therefore, I have like a high ticket offer in mind with around 5,000 euros per year, um, which is, I don't know, 7, 8,000 Australian dollars, I think. And I saw your community is around 30 euros or
at the
something,
moment,
per,
US
per
dollars at
month,
the moment.
US
Yeah,
dollars per month. Yeah.
yeah, at the moment.
So,
It's an introductory price, like, because I want to um, get the community to a certain size and just certain engagement. One thing I've found difficult is a part of it, and I want people to, and maybe this is a value thing, maybe they're not valuing it enough because of the lower price point. I did a fair amount of research and work based on other things that are similar out there in the market. But for me, I want a good community who are engaging. So sharing, there's been some people have come in and out and realize, the community is not sharing as much as they would like, and haven't found value in it and things. And there's only so much I can drive the engagement. I can be on there posting, asking questions and things, but if people aren't on there asking me for help, or if they're, we've had people get on there and they share sounds that they've recorded themselves. So they're sharing their own sound libraries. We've had people who share different plugins they're using. And so when the engagement's great, the community is really great. So I'm just trying to get it to a point where there's a healthy size community. And then, the price will go up. I think I was aiming to be more like 50 a month or something, but I'm also like happy at this stage. I'm just sort of seeing how it goes. But yeah, there's things I'm learning as well from, like, I kind of just got it ready to launch, and probably I did a bit of I'm calling it a soft launch, and it's still a soft launch. I've not, other than just on my channel, said this thing's here. This obviously I'm hoping that talking with you, if there's people who in audio posts, not specifically Foley, that they would sign up. But I haven't really done anything. I think I've done one video since I've started it, and that was for a Waves plugin, and I promoted it in that video, but I've not really pushed any ads or anything like that. So it's something that I need to do, but I've also just been busy with so much other work,
And have you considered to make it a quarterly subscription, or even yearly, so that people cannot opt out every month, so that you have not that high turnover?
No, school doesn't give you that option, I don't think. School doesn't give you that option to go yearly or anything like that. Theirs is just a monthly model. The thing with school, I like its simplicity, but obviously there's certain things like that make it a bit difficult. But the thing is, if people sign up now, they get their introductory price for life. So if I raise the price, it's only for new customers. So it's worth people signing up. But to be honest, there's so much value there already that I'm not, people could be on there for months and they're never going to get through all the content that I've put up there. Like there is so much good content there, and there's a lot there. So some of it, you've got to work your way through it to find the gold. Like, because I was working, as I said, all last year while I was working on projects, I literally pressed record. So I was recording, 6-8 hours a day from non-stop, and just explaining what I'm doing. And I've got a multicam set up. So I've got my camera, I've got a camera going down on my mixer and stuff. And then I do screen capture. So you do get to see everything. You get to see the controllers that I'm using. And obviously you get to see the screen and what I'm looking at, all that sort of stuff. So there's a very good overview. I explain everything, and I think I'm a good talker. I know there's other products out there where people you can shadow them, but they don't say anything. You just watch their screen. And if you're a newcomer, or, maybe don't know as much, following along is really hard. So I explain everything as I'm going through and stuff as well. So, and there's a variety of projects there. So you can, depending on what you want to learn. And as I said, you also can learn Pro Tools as well as DaVinci Resolve. So when Blackmagic bought Fairlight, through some people that I work with, they got me onto Blackmagic, and those guys have sent me a bunch of gear to use. And a lot of the features that have been brought into Fairlight are things that I've pushed for and stuff. So it's definitely a great place for people who are starting out, because it's free and you can do everything you could do in Pro Tools and more in some ways. There are some hang-ups in there as well, but for people who don't want to spend the massive price tag to do Pro Tools and you're starting out, I'd suggest giving it a crack. So
yeah, I really love the whole thing that you do, man, because the quality that you bring, I think it already reflects in the image that you just share with us now. I see the perfect lighting, I see color in your background.
Yeah.
So there, and also I watched a couple of your YouTube introductions, and also there you have this little animation that pops down the studio and all the gear falls into place.
Yeah, I built that myself. That was my old studio. I built that whole animation. It was a bit of fun.
Crazy.
I saw a lot of gaming people were designing this, like, or showing off their game setup in that sort of, I don't know what you call that, poly, what do they call it, 3D poly whatever. And I thought the designs were cool. I'm like, I'm going to steal that idea. So I recreated my old studio in 3D, and then just kind of had everything whip in. So my background, like, I've worked for other companies doing sort of multimedia, working in their media team. So I've got skills in filming, and I'm pretty sure I'm undiagnosed ADHD, and I like grab onto hobbies and things, and love to learn everything. I like to know, like, understand all the different aspects. So I know how to set up cameras. I got multiple cameras and lights, and even the animation side of things. I use YouTube a lot, like everyone else, to learn. I learn from being around other people and being on sets, and I just love being able to have those skills so that, you know, obviously I can not only educate people in audio, but do it well, you know, and be able to show everything off. So, yeah, it's good.
So therefore, your price point, I think, is way too low. Even with 50 euros, or dollars, I don't see this as a fair exchange, um, because
Well,
in the
yeah,
end, the thing that you learn there is essential for you to elevate in your craft, for you to get a job once
it's
and
true.
for all,
Yeah.
and also like understanding the amount of content that you have there, and also the opportunity to really work on those films and get the AAF. And I also
Yeah.
love
Well,
the thing that
I was going to say the other
the
thing as well is I've been getting projects that I haven't been able to work on, so I'm handing that on so people can get job listings. So it's happened a few times where I've shared projects that I couldn't do and have said contact them, you know. And I've also we're talking about trying to do some work together. So as a team, I know like
mm,
a lot of these guys could be very low level, but I want to be able to say, all right, we're going to work on this short film together. You could take this scene, you could take this scene, and see what people's skill levels are and do a project together as well. Because for
mm,
me, I think, well, a lot of these guys, they just need credits as well, right? To be able to get the next film. So
exactly.
they want credits. So there's things like that as
Yeah.
well. And you're right, like maybe the price point is low and maybe they would value it more if I, you know, put it up more. But I guess there's that tall poppy syndrome, right? Like even back when I first started the Twitch stream,
Mm,
I was like, look, I've got all the gear. I literally have the cameras and lights and stuff. I'm like, why not start streaming? I could do it today. Just plug it in, get going. And I did. But I also was like, who's going to listen to me? Like yes, I've probably got maybe 20 years experience in audio post-production and music mixing, um, which, you know, that's pretty good, but it's not like
yeah.
solid just feature films. Like I was working for a company doing a lot of, I used to compose music a lot. So this company we'd do all the advertising and other events and stuff. And I would write all the music. So anytime we made a video, I would compose music specifically for that video. This is before Artlist and all these other services where you could download as much music as you want. But I would mix all different types of projects. And then I moved into, while still having that job, I started doing short films. I did a feature. The second project I did outside of that work was a feature film, and it's not great, but it's out there, and I did it. You know, like, but doing a feature film is a big slog, and it was a great learning process. But yeah, it's I get that tall poppy syndrome, and I'd be working on stuff, and then, you know, someone in the chat, I'd be like, you know, who's here? What do you do? And I find out there's a guy who works on Netflix films, and he's got a massive dub stage in the US. And even he was like, oh, I didn't know you could do it that way. And he was learning things. And I'd be shocked that someone of that caliber who's already there working on bigger projects than I've worked on already are still learning something. And like, you know, because everyone's techniques are different. But I
Mm,
guess a lot of people are going to have my experience where it's, you know, you're not going to work for that big production house. They're not lasting these days. Like production houses, there's not that many of them, particularly in Australia. We don't have many big production houses because all the budgets are just getting cut. Occasionally we get films from the US come to Australia and all the big production houses get those. But, you know, pretty much anyone else in Australia, if you work on films, you got to set up like mine. You're pretty humble setup. You don't have big teams. And most people are just going to, if you're going to get into films, that's the way it's going to be. You're probably not, it's not likely that there's not enough room in all these places for all of us to work in. So my experience is probably closest to what most people have. So I guess you can learn a lot from that. Um,
Quick one. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so wherever you watch or listen to this. It really helps us to grow the channel and to reach more people and to spread the knowledge about how to enter the pro audio industry and how to navigate the industry in general as a professional. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the rest of the episode. Yeah, so
and
let me
yeah,
just recoup to understand what your career path looked like. So from what I heard is you started out in media design, like a broad variety of video production,
well, I
audio
started as a
production.
musician. So
As a
out of
musician,
high
okay.
school, I was a musician. Also, through high school, I played a lot of instruments. Joined a cover band. I was not even so in Australia, the legal age for drinking is 18. So if you're 18 years old, you can go to a bar and drink. And I was 17, and at the time, I also don't think I had a driver's license. So my dad would drive me as an underage kid to a bar where I used to practice with this cover band. And then it grew to, I was playing 4 or 5 nights a week at different bars around Melbourne, and we were writing original music. And then I got this job. It was 13 years. It was for the Salvation Army. So the Salvation Army, if you don't know it, it's an international organization, or it came from a church, but it's a charity. And so I was working at the head office here, so the head office for Australia, and we would do everything from advertising. I would go to places like the Philippines and film what what the Salvation Army was doing in these countries. When they were helping, when there was a floods in the Philippines, we went over there and got to film and tell people, what we were doing, and raising money to keep the work going, stuff like that. So, but we would do live events. I'd live stream things. So I learned kind of all the different aspects, but that's where I started composing music, and I do all the audio post-production. So we do narrative pieces, we do interviews. So I literally got to work on every kind of style of video production and audio for video production. We do music albums. I'd record music albums. We'd write them, all that sort of stuff. So literally kind of a bit of everything. And most of it, a lot of it was self-taught, things I learned on the job, YouTube, from other people, other producers, and all that sort of stuff. So I worked for them for 13 years. In the last few years of that, I went part-time. Well, most of the time I was working freelance, doing other stuff, but the last few years I worked there part-time and started Noisy Post. And so I just went out on my own. I'm pretty sure it was after I'd done that feature film. So I did a short film and then a feature film, and was doing that while I was working full-time. And it took months and it was free. I didn't get paid for that one. So yeah, I worked on this feature film, and then after that I was like, I want to give this a crack. So I went part-time for a couple of years, I think it was, and then went out on my own. So the time I decided to go out on my own with Noisy Post, though, was when I also had my first child. So it was a big risk, financially. It was a pretty big risk. What I was getting paid at the time was pretty solid, and I took a risk and went out on my own. But it's been awesome. COVID was a bit rough. Like, I took a job doing social media for a company. It was a friend's company. I did that for about 1.5 years while still working on things. So Godless, I worked on Godless through some of that period as well. But yeah, I've just been on my own doing Noisy Post, and as I said, doing all the education side of things since COVID. And it's been a wild ride, like lots of great projects, some not great, a lot of them not paid well, others paid, pretty well. Like, we've survived. I think also having the flexibility, like running my own business, it was great when we had kids, because I could, work on a film, go pick up the kids, come back. And so having that flexibility was really great as well for our family. And the last, I think for about 5 years, I've also been on the books at Arts Centre Melbourne. So, and about 2 years at Sydney Opera House. So I do freelance work for them, doing mixing. So mixing concerts and theatre. We've done a couple of like surround sound theatre mixes. So we'll film the show, multicam, multi-track record it, and then I'll remix it in surround sound. We record the audience in 5.1, and we've actually had that screened in cinemas and stuff here in Australia. So things like that. I've mixed some, there's bands like Kurungbin, Fat Freddy's Drop is a massive Australian band. So some of these groups that, yeah. So I got to mix their Sydney Opera House show, which was unbelievable. So yeah, it's there's stuff like that I get to do as well on the side. And I've actually been doing a lot more work at the Arts Centre lately, as I said, because I want to get that interaction with people. I want to be able to, work face to face a bit more. So I've definitely been doing a lot more work there, because, it can be a lonely business sitting in a dark room on your own,
So let me recoup again. You started out working for the Salvation Army and learned everything on the job, basically going out and filming stuff and composing music then for the videos, putting everything together. And then you continue to be kind of self-taught through getting stay in this work situation with the Salvation Army. You trained yourself up and started to work on movies at the side. And then at a certain point, you opted out and made the part-time job out of it and started building Noisy Post. And through all that learning by doing, you even managed to mix live concerts, like really high profile multimedia purpose concerts, which is to me like, I can really understand what that means, the technical level
Well,
you have to be on, and
it's
the
yeah.
kind of stress resistancy, because I also mixed a little bit in my early years as front of house mixer, but I
Yeah.
never really like succeeded in that career because I
Oh,
focused
that's not
more on
live
my.
though. That's broadcast mixes. So
Okay,
those mixes aren't live. So they're live mixes in the sense that these are filmed concerts that I do the broadcast mix. So
get it.
yeah, I wasn't the live PA mixer. I was the broadcast mixer. So they're both Art Centre and Sydney Opera House, particularly Sydney Opera House, have their own streaming channel, so you can watch their concerts and stuff that they filmed. And so I did the post mix for those. So they, a lot of the times they'll live stream the show, and someone will mix that
Hmm.
live, so a live sort of broadcast mix. And what I do is the post production mix of that concert. Um, it's interesting, like, and this is the other thing with the Salvation Army. It was an odd job because the Salvation Army, I don't know if people know this, but they are known because they've been around for like 150 years, and they used to love their brass. They still love their brass instruments. So they would make brass bands like an orchestra, but all brass. It's occasionally can be a great sound, but mostly it's compared to an orchestra, there's no delicacy. Like, it's not delicate because it's just like horns,
Okay.
right? But anyway, they love the horns. But we would do concerts, and it would be, so even we did some, and the reason I started working at Arts Centre Melbourne is we would do some shows at this place called Hamer Hall, and it's like a 3,000 seat auditorium, and the Salvation Army would do a big concert slash, I don't know, event. And so there'd be like 100-piece choir, this brass band, and they used to get other instruments, so they would get some strings in. They'd do these like variety shows where there'd be a big band, there'd be dance groups, choirs, people singing, drama, all this stuff in the one show. So I would mix 120 channels of a show, be a 2-hour show, and then we'd put it out on DVD and things like that. So I had that experience and learnt a lot from, and sometimes we'd live stream them, and then we'd also do post mixes on them. And I learned a lot from just doing these shows. And our turnaround was stupid. Like, we'd film this thing, and then we'd have to get it out 4 days later. So we'd have to like remix it all, re-edit the vision, and then burn off DVDs to ship them out and stuff. So I learned a lot from that. And I think the good thing with doing these live concert mixes and stuff, to me, it's kind of a good mix of music mixing, which I have got a history of doing, but also it a bit of it feels like film to me. Like having to clean up dialogue and stuff. You have to do a lot of that, like through editing and plugins and stuff. You have to clean a live recording quite a bit, or the way I like
Mm.
to do it, you do. And so to me, it's a good mix of kind of like, it's got the rawness of a film, but but it's got the aspect of the music in it. So it's funny. I was working on a job. I don't know if I should say this out loud, but I was working on a job for Sydney Opera House, and one of the producers didn't. He liked the live stream mix more than my mix. So the live stream is, they probably do one rehearsal, but they just, whatever it is, they don't remix it or anything. But I remixed this band, and he said to me, he's like, "Oh, I prefer the other mix because it was kind of a punk rock band." He's like, "It's a bit more punk rock. It's more raw, more live. Yours is too studio. It sounds really clean." And I was like, "That's the best compliment you could make, that I could make a live concert sound as clean as a studio recording." Because in the end, it annoyed me, because I'm like, all I have to do is push up the audience mics and a bit of reverb, and it's live again. But the fact that he said that, as much as he was saying it in a negative way, I was like, I'll take it as a compliment. Like, I've got the skills to turn a live recording into something that sounds like it's done in the studio. So, yeah, which I love that kind of stuff. Like, in that particular recording, there was like feedback in the mics and stuff, and I used RX and other tricks to clean it out, so you couldn't even hear it, but the live stream recording had it all in there. So it's things like that I love. And a lot of these projects, they're really quick turnaround. So I think some of my best work is like, you got 2 days to mix a hour-long concert with 60 tracks or whatever. And I think that when you work quick, that's when your best work happens. Like, when you have too
Mm.
much time with something, you almost undo all the good stuff that you do. It's like the instinct, the like initial instinct, where you just like chuck a bunch of plugins, do some tweaking, and then just do some fader rides. And you're like, okay, that sounds great. When you keep coming back to it, I feel like that's when you just like, you start second guessing yourself, and you just end up doing funky things with it. So yeah, I love all aspects of what I do. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff I can't share, the projects I work on. If I could share everything I work on, it'd just be so good. But a lot of these things are licensed, and there's just too many loopholes that I'd have to go around. So yeah.
Amazing. So what sticks through to me is that you were on the one hand very fortunate with your job, so that opened up for you a lot of learning opportunities and doing also things at a great scale because just of the network and the capability of the company you worked for. And
Yeah.
on the other hand, it was your own effort that you put into all the things so that you could make sure you can handle those tasks that were given to you. And on the other hand, you on top of that then took on other things to learn, to elevate into the thing you really wanted to do, which is also working on movies. So for everyone starting out there, I think this is the main message here, that you have to get going on real projects and that you have to do the work, and only learning online or watching YouTube tutorials doesn't really cut it. You have to put the things that you learn into practice, and then through working on real productions, even if there are no budget. You mentioned the first two movies you did, there was no money, yet
Yeah.
you still pushed through it and delivered something. I think that's the main message here for everyone who wants to really make a difference in the industry. As I just already mentioned, your nice setup. Can you maybe explain a little bit more about your studio? You said it's in the backyard in a separate building, and
Yeah.
what's kind of the thing? Is it a cinema, a speaker system, or you have a screen there, not a TV, right? And what's the setup there, and what's the
Yep.
story of building it, and how much did it cost you, or like, or over
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
time
Happy
did
to
it
share all that.
evolve?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see I've got a video on YouTube. It's a studio tour video, so you can actually see it. Kind of, obviously it's dark now, but I've got footage of it. That was when I had it as a 7.1 studio setup, but it was the end of end of COVID. When was the end of COVID? It's still there. Maybe a couple of years ago. Up until a couple of years ago, or at least pre-COVID, I was subleasing a space that was about 5 by 4 meters from another company, and I just had a room sort of in there.
Hmm.
And then during COVID, I just worked from home because we weren't allowed to go anywhere. And then my wife and we were chatting about the fact that I need a space. And at that point, obviously, I'd been many years in my own business. So we built, it's basically it's where our carport was. So a carport is a sheltered place where our cars used to sit. And
Hmm.
so it already had a concrete slab, and we basically just built where the carport was. So it's not big. It's only a 3 by 5 meters space that's probably only, standard bedroom height. So it's not actually or probably even small. It's not even that high. So it's a tidy little room. Got air conditioning, which is really important because the sun streams through the door and it gets really hot in here. I also have a 7.1.4 speaker setup. So between all the computers and screens and lights and whatever, it gets hot in here. So the fact that I've got air conditioning, and we have solar on our on our house, so at least I get the power for free during the day. But yeah, as I said, I've got a 7.1.4 speaker setup. So I am set up for Dolby Atmos home theater, so not theatrical because it's too small.
Of course.
And I've done a couple of Dolby Atmos or spatial audio mixes, and worked on some films in 7.1.4, but they've only been released in 7.1 or 5.1. So I'm yet to really use this space, other than as I said, a couple of music mixes, but it's also just a great space to own and enjoy. And it wasn't a huge expense going up to 7.1.4. So just to go back on the studio, so I think we paid about 25,000 Australian dollars to build it. That includes like electrical, lots of plaster, the everything finished. So including like the air conditioning unit, but and probably also including, because I've got a lot of soundproof panels which I've built myself. So there's corner bass traps that hold the speakers. You can see my rear speakers there. So corner bass traps that hold those. I've got massive corner bass traps at the front, one that holds I've got a 100-inch projector screen. So there's a projector that sits above me, projects on the 100-inch screen, which, 100 inches is decent for this size room. It almost is wall to wall. And it looks impressive for customers when they come and sit here and listen. And I have even within, so I've got a cloud, a soundproof panel cloud that has a hole that's got a camera that's mounted up there. So the camera does my mixer cam. And I used to have my light also in that cloud, but changed my setup a little bit. So at the moment, I've got a giant light here that's a nice big softbox and stuff, but that doesn't always live there depending on what I'm doing. So the 7.1.4 setup that I've got is I have a 5.1 PMC set of speakers. So the PMCs they're old now, they're analog. I bought them on an auction website for secondhand, and I got them for like $5,000 for 3 pairs and a sub. And I looked up a pair to buy them semi recently because I was like, I'll go 7.1 in that same setup, and I could buy a pair for like £2,500 for 1 pair. And I bought the whole lot for, 6 speakers and a sub for 5,000 Australian. So in the end, I tried, these are Kali audios. So the Kali audios are three-way speakers that are kind of budget, as in they're, I think I paid about $600 Australian each, which they just sound fantastic for what they are. And I tested those out for ages. So I had these ones at the rear to do 7.1, and then I've got the smaller Kalis in the roof. So I've got 4 speakers in the roof. But I've also run SonarWorks. So Sonar Sound ID are a partner of mine, and they hooked me up. So I use SonarWorks to tune it all and to do room correction and time alignment. What else do you want to know?
I'm using that as well.
The Kali audios?
No, the
SonarWorks.
SonarWorks. Yeah, because maybe you don't know, but I also had a Dolby Atmos studio not too long ago. I built it up from the ground. It was with merging technologies interfaces, and I even had this Arvos H24N, which decodes Dolby Atmos streams into linear PCM via Dante. And then I hooked that up into the Ravenna network. And so that way I could then, work on games, for example, and play them back natively on the speakers, like from the engine, or just open up Netflix and play something for reference. And it was a huge endeavor to get this thing going and making it work. I also had an acoustics company measuring everything, and all the panels and the acoustic design was custom made. And then awesome. I had a Neumann speaker setup 7.1.4.
Yeah.
And
then what happened?
It was a divorce that happened. And
she took the studio.
I mean, the whole thing was.
She's sitting and enjoying a 7.1.4 setup, is she?
Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that, mate. That sucks. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. I mean, it was a bit of my own naivety, or how do you say that?
Yeah. Naivety. I don't know. Yeah. I know what
naivety,
you mean.
Yeah. So to make that huge investment in a rented space within a marriage that was not bulletproof, let's say, it was like it was really on the we just learned how to get along each other, because I'm Muslim. I cannot get into a relationship with someone without being married. So we married early on after meeting each other, and then we kind of moved together. And as she was financially very, very strong, she helped me out with building the studio. So I took basically a loan from her. And then in the end, things not really worked out. And that was exactly the point where I got laid off from Ubisoft and had the divorce, and the studio was just finished. So it was really a hard time for me for a year, exactly a year ago. And then I had to let go of all the Dolby Atmos gear and the interface, because that was something I basically was leasing from her. And she was then taking all the stuff back, which was in the end also a blessing for me, because, I set up all this Dolby Atmos and never really worked with it in a business way, because
Yeah.
my idea was to make more music immersive mixes, because I was early on in the process. I was one of the first people having a Dolby Atmos studio, home theater kind of thing. That was even back then when Dolby did the free licensing and measurements. So they came and I didn't have to even pay them to measure the whole thing. So back then I didn't need SonarWorks. That's my angle here,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I had the Anubis, and all the processing and the EQ and the delay was done by the Dolby consultant on the Anubis natively, which was great. And so
That's awesome.
now and back then again, I wanted to do Dolby Atmos so badly because I know the format since it was launched. But at the companies I worked at, there was never the chance to use the format because we never upgraded until I left, basically. And then I worked for Ubisoft. So there was also not the Dolby Atmos mixing stage. We were about to build it, but then it never happened. And then I thought, look, I now have the chance to build it myself. Let's do it. I want to work in that format. But then
Yeah.
what happened was I had all the things then finally working, and it was such a huge investment. And then upgrading the next Dolby Atmos renderer plugin. So I was always up to date with all the stuff, but I never got into doing the work because my passion was mainly in the Foley and
Yeah.
educational part. So I wanted to build an online coaching business. Therefore, the whole studio was also equipped with cameras and
Yeah.
lighting, and
Yeah.
this was all designed for that. And as much as I love mixing music, and as much as I saw the opportunity for me now to step into that market again, because it wouldn't require me to come up with 15 years of mixing music credits in order to get this kind of work, because it's also like an aftermarket processing, mixing already mixed songs, up mixing them into Dolby Atmos, and then maybe progressing from there into mixing more natively stuff. So I would
Yeah.
really love to do that because I know how much I enjoy it, but it
Yeah.
just didn't happen. And I never found myself to be really diving into the format and using it, even though, because it was just too overwhelming for me getting my business to run, and then being laid off, and just to get it working in the first place was such a huge effort.
Yeah.
um, and that also is a lesson for me that, okay, even if you want something so bad, maybe it's not meant for you in a way, um, because you simply don't be able to get yourself to the point where you're doing it. And the things that I can just make myself do are the things that are maybe made or meant for me in a more like spiritual way, let's say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe that's the thing that God wants uh, for me to do, and I'm happy
Yeah.
to serve that purpose more than I want to serve my own ideas, and
Yeah.
so in the end, now I don't have all the fancy gear anymore. I just stripped back to a cheap interface from RME, bought that secondhand. Also a nice side story, because the guy I bought it from, I then met on Gamescom, and now we are connected and exchange and stuff. So things happen, and I went back to my little Geithain speakers that are really awesome. It's a German brand, and just had to buy a couple of stuff that was missing then, but all the rest was there. And also I have to mention that my ex-wife not only lended me money, she also supported me, and like basically gave me money. She was, how do you say that, she just
She
gave
was.
that to me as a present, or like
Yeah.
what do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. She was your
Yeah,
sugar mama. She was your sugar mama looking
based.
after you. Yeah. Yeah.
No, she was obviously wanted to help me
Yeah.
from the
Yeah. Yeah.
bottom
Of
of her
course.
heart, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. But the amount of money I needed to build it was not the amount she had in mind to just give to me for free, um, and therefore I took the rest as a loan, whatever. Um, but that actually helped me now with that studio. All the acoustics, my studio desk, and these things are basically from the money she gave me for free. I'm really grateful for that, and all the rest I already had. Yeah, and now I'm here sitting in this Foley studio, which is from the shape of the room, maybe not ideal, but the surfaces are so great here, and I have even more space than in the other room. And yeah, now I have no Dolby Atmos, but it also is a bit freeing to myself because I can more focus on the things that I'm really the best at doing, which is Foley,
Yeah.
and then the whole educational thing on top
Yeah.
of that. So
I'm
yeah,
not in as I'm not in a different, like, I'm in a similar situation to you, because I think because of the way my career's gone and the fact that I've even doing this education stuff, I bought the Dolby Atmos setup because I wanted to particularly do more Dolby Atmos music mixing. And I kind of thought that, it's that thing of what's that old Field of Dreams movie, the baseball movie? It's if you build it, they will come. And I kind of thought, all right, I'll build a Dolby Atmos setup. There's not many of them in Melbourne. And then I'm like, yeah, they'll come and I'll get to mix the things. But because I haven't mixed much music other than the live side of things, like live theater and live concerts, I haven't mixed a lot of music that in so many years that people aren't flocking to me to do their Dolby Atmos music mixes. So I have not done a lot of work when it comes to my Dolby Atmos setup. And there was some initial investment. I bought the Tone Winner. So the Tone Winner is the same thing. It does the decoding. So it's got HDMI in and then just XLR out. So that goes into my interface and everything that I watch. So if I watch anything on Apple TV or anything like that, or Netflix,
mm,
that all goes through Tone Winner into my computer, through SonarWorks, and then through my speakers. So everything I listen to is tuned in my room. Everything I mix and work on, it sounds the same. So I can watch films and content in here and know exactly what it should sound like. So when I work on stuff, it sounds exactly the same. So it's, that the Tone Winner wasn't that cheap. I did the interface. I bought a secondhand SSL converter, which just has 24 channels conversion. And I use a RME, the DigiFace, the ADAT one.
mm,
So it has lots of channels of ADAT, and my SSL converter has MADI and ADAT. So I'm literally just using the ADAT, and I've got 24 in, 24 out. And so I just, the Tone Winner sends me 12 channels of audio, and then I send 12 out to my speakers.
the Tone Winner. I
Yeah.
never heard of that product.
Yeah, it's the budget. It's the cheapest. I found it from all the different, any Dolby Atmos, the early people who are early adopters of Dolby Atmos. They said the cheapest way to get it in is it's a Chinese brand. It's called the Tone Winner AT300, I think it is.
Hmm.
And it's just a single rack unit. And all it has, as I said, is just HDMI's in, lots of like 5 channels of it, and then I think it's 16 out or something. So you can do 9.1.4 or something like that. Or yeah,
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, the thing that I was looking for was the digital version of that, and that comes at a very much higher price point. So there's only
yeah.
the Trinnov and the Storm Audio, which is like
Oh,
high-end audiophile gear.
to have
And
Trinov, I would love. Like that's my dream. Even I'd almost buy Trinov before I buy new speakers. I reckon, because I feel like that would make such a difference in my space. I really enjoy the speakers that I've got, but I feel like Trinov would just tighten everything up just so much. But it's just
because
not a
you
thing.
want them to do the equalizing through the Trinnov, or
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is the phase correction and stuff that does is more advanced than, say, SonarWorks. SonarWorks works great for me though. Like, to be honest, I'm really happy with my space. I love to consume content. I love playing video games in here. I get to play video games in Dolby Atmos. It's awesome. But as I said, I've got faders for Pro Tools. So I've got some artist mixes in the dock, and then I've got DaVinci, so Blackmagic's. They've got their audio editor and their fader. What is it called? The desktop console. So I've got, for both setups, I've got a full, mixer console vibe. So if I'm working
hmm.
in Pro Tools or DaVinci, I've got all the controllers that I could need. So I'm well set up. And obviously for the education side of things, I've got multiple cameras and lots of lighting and other gear. And I'm really well set up for the education side of things. I think I also have lots of knowledge to share, which, is, I guess,
Obviously,
important.
yeah.
But look, at the end of the day, I still get imposter syndrome. Some of the opportunities that I get, I'm baffled, that people would ask me to do things, like pro sound effects. Some great guys that make amazing plugins have got me to do videos for them. And sometimes I'm just like, why are they asking me? Like, because even my credits, I've had some good credits, some solid credits. And as I said, I was up for that actor award, which is one of the biggest awards you could get in Australia. But I still feel like an imposter. Like it's a part of it, but I
I
do
think
get
that
lots of good feedback, which is helpful. When people write great comments and the engagement I get from live streams and things like that, it's good. So
hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the fact that you put yourself out there and present yourself in a very professional way, that is the reason why people want to work with you, because you have visibility, you have credibility, and I think it's another reason for everyone to really listen up here, because um, even given the fact that you haven't the international blockbuster credits yet, you are still capable in what you do, and people want to work with you because you put value out there. You really display that you care about the detail, not only in your work but also in how you present the content that you do, and I
yeah,
think that
sure.
shows that you can be taken seriously, and so yeah, everyone who wants to really make a difference and is able to put out content, I would strongly argue that they should, because that's a way to build a network around you, and then people, will come to you instead of you have to knock on every door. And this is also something I experienced myself, and it's yeah, the day and age we live in. So I saw a post recently on LinkedIn, because in the US there's this huge crisis also in the movies industry. So people were a lot out of work last year. And there was this one post when someone was a bit like cynical and saying like, yeah, this is now how we should survive as sound people in film, build a business, be an influencer, produce your own movie, do this, do that. And it was all a bit like, yeah, I just want to work on projects, and please, this is just nonsense. No one can really do this in a way that people now advertise online, like make your
Yeah, yeah.
own solopreneurship, online business with digital products. And to be honest, I kind of get it when you're like used to that work on that very high profile stuff, and you always get handed the work, and now you should start a YouTube channel and be an influencer. Maybe it feels a bit off, but for me personally, I feel really comfortable with that, and I see a lot of opportunity there, because when you know something and you can share valuable stuff, why shouldn't you pursue that path if it feels good for you? I see a lot of opportunity there with digital products and stuff, exactly the stuff that you do. I think it's the 100% like nailed what people need, and then
Thank you.
building digital products around that are maybe like from a smaller price range up to a high ticket offer. You can make really a difference for your business, especially when you're out of work and you don't have proper projects to work on, which can happen anytime, as we just realized and witnessed throughout the last couple of years, and also through COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think about this? Like that this is all a scam, doing this, and that people are really like on the fences, and
I'll
yeah,
be
this is all.
yeah. Personally, I do find it a struggle. Like I look at people out there who YouTube is their only thing, like they are a YouTuber or whatever. I feel for them, like the amount of work they have to do to keep churning things out. And I honestly haven't been good enough at like constantly every month or even every week putting out videos. Sometimes I've gone whole 6 months without putting up content. And I feel for like musicians, like I feel like as musicians now, they're not just a muso who makes good music. They have to be a marketing expert. They have to create all this content. And it's not for everyone. I guess it's hard because those people that whinge, they work for a big production house and then the jobs just keep coming in because they work for that production house. And I guess it's a sense of entitlement. They kind of, if they're whinging about that, they're entitled. Like no one should just, because of where you work, just get this work, like, because as you say, like, well, I do have an attention to detail. I work really hard on every project I work on and want to leave value so that they obviously, my clients come back. And when you work your own business, a lot of the times I don't have time to go out and advertise as well. So it's like, if I do good work, I finish a job and the next one kind of comes in. And so you just got to make sure you keep doing good work and spread yourself wide enough that, you know, you might work on this project and the people that work on that one worked on this one over there. They tell you, everyone, that you did great work. So you just kind of start broadening your network. And at times I go through waves as well, just like anyone else. I go through waves, and I guess those waves where it's going down, that's when I am creating more content, or I make videos, I gather some stock footage and then put sound behind it and do things like that, just to show people, hey, I'm here and I can do this. And you do have to do these things. Unfortunately, you know, no one just is going to get handed things on a platter. You have to work hard. You got to show people what you're made of. You got to show people value. I think even for me, like the YouTube side of things, it obviously helps with SEO, helps your website get boosted. But the thing I think for me as well is I do think I'm good at talking on camera. I think I'm personable. We've talked for what, an hour now or something, like, you know, I don't know how much you'll edit this down, but we've been talking for about an hour, and nonstop between the two of us, we've talked nonstop. And when I'm working on my projects, I can just talk about what I'm doing while I'm doing it. And I'm not constantly fumbling over my words and all that kind of stuff. You know, obviously sometimes I get excited, and I just don't stop. I keep talking. You know, I'm sure there's times where you've wanted me to shut up so you could ask questions, but you know, at the end of the day, the way I present on camera is who I am. And so people get to see my personality and how I work and who I am from my videos. So if someone, you know, is looking up me to do a film and they see, oh, he's got videos, they just click on it. They just need to see me talk for a few minutes to go, hey, I'm Benny Knopp. I'm a nice guy. I work hard or whatever. And clearly I work hard because I run a business, but I also have a YouTube and I sell products. So I'm clearly a hustler, and sometimes I wish I could slow down, but I just can't. This is who I am. I create, I make, and, you know, to the detriment of my family sometimes. My wife is very supportive, and I have 2 young daughters, and it's hard to juggle all this with my life. And, you know, that's why also, you know, the Shadowing Network, I really want to put more time back into that, because the community aspect to me is really important. But you are making me rethink on my price point. Maybe I need to, maybe everyone watching this, if you want to get in now, because I might raise the prices. So yeah,
you
go
can
to
10x the
shadowing.network.
price and it will be still worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
look,
I think this is summing it up really, really well, Benny, because as you said, you put yourself out there and people can get a glimpse of who you are through your content. And that's another way to get them the impression of if they want to work with you or not. And so that's also what I'm recommending to all the people that I talk to and mentor them. So thank you very much for giving us that insight. And I really enjoyed the conversation. And I hope that we can stay in touch and exchange further and hopefully even work together.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I'd be happy to come back in the future if you want to discuss more things. And I'm sure there's many other themes that we can touch on as well. But yeah, I've had a great time, Bastian. And yeah, definitely looking forward to connecting with you more in the future.
Thank you very much. Same here. Thank you very much for staying up until the end. It shows me that you are dedicated to make a difference within the pro audio industry. If you have feedback or questions, just put them in the comment section and I'm happy to get back to you. If you want to reach out to me directly, just DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn, and we can even set up a free mentoring call if you want. In that call, we can then find out if you also would be a match for our Pro Audio Academy, where we help professionals or aspiring sound designers to really get into the industry or to their next goal within their career in a way faster manner. That's it. Thanks for subscribing to the channel as well. If you haven't done so, please do it, and then see you in the next episode. Peace, the Foley Teacher.